All right, let's go.
Right. So what we have discussed in the previous session about the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst, followed by a project manager. And the next, there are two more responsibilities, which being a business analyst in future, right? Not in present, in future means in reference to the career graph, we were discussing all these points. So there are possibilities that we may become product owner and we may become even a scrum master, right? So subject to terms and conditions, of course, how to become product owner, how to become scrum master. There will be some skill set which you need to acquire, all that, right? So that's a different this thing anyway. But still, if you are a product owner, business analyst in future, if you are working on product owner and a scrum master, because these are the two different roles which will be available or which are available when we are working on agile development, because there is a concept called agile, agile, agile. There is a concept called agile. It's a methodology to develop the project. Whenever you want to develop the project, there is some methodology you have to follow. So it is one of its kind, right? So agile is a methodology which is being used for application development. So in this agile environment, because normally when we are developing projects, usually there will be of two different these things. When we are developing projects, please mute yourself. Request you to mute yourself. There is a disturbance. Please mute yourself. Right. So when we are developing a project, when we are developing projects, there will be two different please mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. Right. So when we are developing projects, there will be two different types of models we use. So that I'm going to explain about SDLC. That's what we call it as SDLC. Whichever I'm going to explain, once these two descriptions were completed, I'll go there. Okay. So let me give you a clear idea, right? So normally there will be traditional model. Traditional models are there. And second is agile. This is what the thing is. The traditional models, there are different models in traditional model, something like waterfall, V model, etc. So whereas in agile model, it's a methodology, is a separate methodology, right? So traditional models like waterfall, V model and all. So we use to develop the projects. So where the business analyst role will be available. But whereas when you are following a practice of agile in application development, in spite of business analyst, we may become a product owner or a scrum master, right? So if it is agile methodology, again, skill sets will be varying. Of course, there is a skill set for that which is required. So that sort of skill set is required. So they'll become product owner and scrum master. Product owner, more or less like a BA role, I can say, right? So you are a BA, the same job you will be doing as a product owner, where you need to define the goal and vision of the product, the same thing what usually BA do, the same thing. Next, here we develop epics and develop user stories. Normally, if you are a business analyst, what is that I said? You are going to write these documents, right? So BRD, FRD, right? So human diagrams, supporting with SRS specification. So these are the things which normally being a BA, we do it. But at the same time, if the application or if the project is working on agile environment, agile doesn't have timeline, because you cannot say that in agile there is no specific timelines, right? So timelines will be very shorter. It means what customer wants, you are developing it first and you are delivering it. And that's how generally agile works. But whereas traditional models doesn't work that way, because traditional models has a different approach, because there is a structure of the thing which we follow. But whereas when it comes to the agile, it is not that, because in agile we have very less time, where we don't prepare documents. In spite of writing functional and non-functional requirements, all these things, we will be writing what is functional, non-functional, I'll tell you, right? So what is that we do is that we are writing it as a user story, right? We are writing it as a user story. So this is what generally the difference wherein you see from traditional to agile in application development. So if it's a traditional model, you are preparing documentation. If the project is following agile, and if you are a product owner, in spite of writing documents, you are writing a user story. User story, nothing but it's a short description of requirement. I can say that. User story, nothing but it's a short description of requirement. This is what generally user story stands for, right? So user story, nothing but short description of requirement. This is what user story stands for. So this user stories and all everything we will be preparing in agile by a product owner. At the same time, writing user stories is a continuous process, means functionalities are the continuous process. Now, where do you store all that? Because there must be some repository to store all the information. Where do we store? All these will be stored in a product backlog. This is what we call it as product backlog stands for. So product backlog is a repository to store all the information, right? So if you are a product owner, you define the goal and vision of the product, you're developing epics, you're writing user stories, and you create and maintain product backlog. This is what being a product owner, you do it. Of course, what skill sets you need to acquire may be different. That will be different. It will not be the same as BA, because as I said, this is a career graph, right? So when we are moving to the next levels and all that, even you are a project manager level or something in future, acquiring knowledge, acquiring skill set is anyway it's required, you know it, right? So that is one thing. Second, Scrum Master role. If you are a Scrum Master, you need to manage the Scrum team. Scrum team means development team, I can say. In simple terms, we call it as development team. So where you need to manage the team progress. For example, I have assigned a task to you guys, for example, right? So I have assigned a task wherein you are working on that, right? So some people may be in development, some people may be in testing, some people are taking care of documentation, some people are taking user interface designs, all that. Now, what is that you have done so far? At the same time, how far you have completed? How come I know? Unless until if I don't know about this in detail, so I cannot understand what is that is going on here. Right? So first of all, being an Scrum Master, I should able in a position to track the progress of the work. To track the progress of the work, there is a structure they follow. There are different tools people use, something like Jira, all that. They use and they track the progress of the work. All these that things they do there. Right? So this is what generally a Scrum Master role is. So this is what generally a career graph you see for any BA. So business analyst, these are the responsibilities we do. If you are wearing a hat of a project manager or you become a project manager, your responsibilities will be different. It means the project manager responsibilities are these. If you are a product owner in future, your responsibilities will vary again. At the same time, it is even applicable even for a Scrum Master role as well. So these are the roles and responsibilities which you have to understand. But you are joining your career as a business analyst, you said then you have to focus more on what BA do, how they do, how stakeholder management has to be done, all these things. So this is what you will be learning, and this is what you must be good with. Now, as yesterday I mentioned you, I need to explain about what is feature, what is functional, what is non-functional requirements. That's what the balance we have here. So let me put you this way. I'll give you an example which is relating to non-IT. Okay, so that you guys will understand much better. So first of all, what is feature? Functional. Second, non-functional. Because these words we use in coming days even. So you must be knowing about what is this. What are these meant for? People come from IT. I think they could understand very easy. Because people come from non-IT, it would be difficult for them to understand. Hence, I'm giving an example, a non-IT related example I'm giving, so that you're just so that you will be understood well. For example, you have a car, right? So you're driving a car, whichever the model it may be. Right? So you're driving a car. In the car, manufacturer has given multiple features to you, right? So there are a lot of features which are available in the car. Some features are necessary ones. Some are comfort. Some are used for the comfort. Some are luxury. Okay. Normally, services are the requirements will be. Requirements means not requirements. Requirements means our these things will be divided into three things. Priorities. You know it. Some are necessary things. Some are used for comfort. Some are used for luxury. Right. I mean, so this is how generally in our lifestyle also, if you see, we categorized and we prioritized the things, what is that we require into three different things. One is necessary, right? Food, shelter, all these were necessary things. Comfort, right? So you are using an AC, right? All these things are comfort. So this give you a comfort while you are working, you will be stressed out of work. Using AC, all that air cooling systems and all gives you a comfort. Luxury above all is the luxury. Whatever you are buying, whatever maybe apparels or whatever apparels, not the necessary ones, whatever the additional things we are buying and all everything, those are luxury, right? So usually, this is how usually we categorize normal. So the same way, when you are driving a car, there are a lot of features they have given. Maybe some features were necessary. Some features maybe gives you a comfort. Some features may be giving you a luxury, right? Luxury means luxury depends on the type of the car, depends on the brand, depends on the cost. Luxury will be there. You know that. Now, there is a device called GPRS tracking device. I think, hope you might have heard about this, right? GPRS tracking device. So GPRS tracking device is a, whether in which category this is falls into, forget about it, because that's for the better understanding I've given this. Right. So there is a device called GPRS tracking, which was given in the car. So global positioning system. So that if you are driving, when someone is driving the car, it is not sure that we know each and every road, right? Each and every location, which is not guaranteed, because there, when we drive the car and when we are moving, sometimes we go to some locations which are even not known to us even. But usually it happens. So to show the directions and all, GPRS tracking device is a one is the one which is being used in a car, right? So for that reason we are using. Now consider this is one of the feature in the car. Among all the features, there is one feature called GPRS tracking device. Now you are a user. User means you are driving a car. You are using a GPRS tracking device. Now, if you want to operate it, right, for the benefit, for your benefit, because you, for example, you start your journey where you are going to a location which is first time, so that you want to access or you want to use this GPRS tracking device. First of all, what is that is required? First of all, you should be able in a position to on the device. First point. Make sure you need to have a proper net connection on that. You need to on the system. Next, you need to have an option to choose the location where you are now. First of all, in which location are you now? You need to choose first. Second, you need to choose the location which you want to reach, where you want to reach, right? You will be reaching, you will be selecting that location even. So whenever you are selecting both the locations, again, you need to click on the submit button or an OK button, whatever it is. Whenever you are clicking, obviously it will show you the directions, right? So there will be two, maybe one or two directions. It will show you, right? So this is the long direction, this is the short one. And these many miles it will be taken for you to reach. All that information will be there once you are clicking on. So you start going, it will instruct you to go left, go right, to go straight, take U-turn, all that. So it will tell you everything. Once you have reached the location, it will give you a voice notification that you have reached the location, which is left or right side of yours, right? So this is what generally this device is. Now, if you see a feature called GPRS tracking device, unless until assume that these functionalities are not there in the feature. Now you tell me, can you operate it? Is it possible for you to operate? If there is nothing of this sort, right? All these things won't be there. There is no value for the device. Agree? Right? So you need to be able to switch on this device. Next, automatically there is an option to select the location where you are now, right? So that there must be an option there. Next, second option, to which location you want to reach. So all these were needed. Without all these, you can't do it. So these are, we consider and we comes under functional requirements, functionalities. So these we call it as functional requirement. So it's not only about feature. If you want to operate that feature, there are some functional requirements which you have to mention. Understood now? Clear? Everyone? Right? So you can text me, no problem. Right? So this is what we call it as functional requirement stands for. Now, second, non-functional requirement. What is non-functional then? Non-functional requirements, nothing but, for example, you have reached the location and you have crossed even. You have crossed the location even. After 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, you got a notification that you have reached the location. As the location is unknown to you, you felt confused, right? Because the location you have crossed, which you don't know, but whatever the message you have got, a voice message you got was delayed. Delayed. What do you feel? Sometimes you feel that the system is not so accurate, right? It's not giving accurate results to us. So performance, scalability, right? So all these things comes under non-functional requirements. Understood? So there are two different things. One is functional requirement. Second is non-functional requirement. Functional requirement means these are necessary ones to use that feature, particular feature. Non-functional requirement means what are all is needed for you, like scalability, security, characteristic of a particular functionality. This is what we call it as non-functional requirement. Who will say this? Non-functional requirements, client will say. For example, there is a point of sale system as we are discussing since long, for a few days, since beginning. Customer is saying that we were getting on average 500 to 600 customers every day to our shop. Average billing time should not be more than 8 minutes. That is what customer has said. Means whatever the transaction, everything has to be done in 8 minutes time. Point number one. Point number two. Once the billing is completed, whenever you press a enter button, within fraction of these many seconds, customer should get a message to his registered mobile number or to their registered email ID. They have to get a message. Message states that you have successfully thank you of shopping with us, right? So you have to get a message. So this message you have to get it very fast. So these are the instructions which will be given by the customer to you. So these we call it as non-functional requirements. So non-functional requirements are the one which are comes under performance of the application, character of a particular functionality. To explain that, non-functional requirements comes into picture. I'll show a document to you so that you'll be understood more better in an IT related thing. Okay. Now, if you see, assume that this is a feature called billing and scanning. Billing and order processing is what you're doing in point of sale system, for example. Now, what are the functionalities you want? If you want, for example, you are the one who is doing billing in the counter. Assume that, right? I am the one. Maybe I am the one who is using billing. I'm at the billing counter, and whoever customer comes, I do billing. That's what my job is. Now, if I want to perform this, what is that I want first? I should have an option to scan the items first, right? There must be a barcode scanner. And at the same time, every product must be having a barcode, right? So that is required. To scan the items is one functionality. Next, if customer is paying payment, choosing different payment methods, capturing different payments methods is one more functionality. If there is any discount which is added to that product, that is one more functionality. Next, once the billing is in a process of it, generating order invoice is one more functionality. Next, sending this is in an email or in a message format to the customer is in one more functionality. So it's not simply that we say billing and order processing is a feature is not enough. If you want to perform this, what else is required? How to do billing, right? So if you want to do billing, what is that you require? First of all, customer billing person has to come to the counter. He has to give his login credentials and he has to log in first, right? Using his employee ID or something like, he has to log in first. Once he is log in, what is that he has to do? He has to take a product. right? He has to scan. So for that, there must be a barcode, scan reader, everything should be there. So he scan it. Whenever he scans, the product name will be displayed on the screen. Automatically, price will also be mentioned because every product will be, price will be fixed and it will be there in the inventory, right? So it will be displayed. Being a billing person, what I am doing, simply I am mentioning the quantity. For example, bath soaps. Bath soaps is in so and so $1. For example, one bath soap is $1. So assume that a customer is taken five bath soaps. 1 into 5. 5 is the total quantity. Unit price into 5, the total number. Finally, whenever I am doing billing, including taxes, the total cost will be shown on the screen. I'll say to the customer, so this is what the total amount was. Then customer will pay me either through card or through wallet or by cash or whatever the way it is. Customer is paying to me. So this is what we call it as order processing, right? So this is what the billing order processing happens. So unless until if there is no option, can I do it? Because assume that if I don't have all these, is there be of any use for the feature here? No, am I right? So this is what generally we call it as functional requirements. So these are, we call it as functional requirements. Now, when it comes to non-functional requirements, as I mentioned you, for example, if you have taken this, for example, generate order invoice, in how many seconds it should be, right? You are reprinting an email invoice to the end customer. How much time should it be taken? So these are the instructions, means this is indirectly, this explains us about the performance of a particular application, right? So right or not, because how well the application we have developed, as long as the application is not performing the right results, it doesn't have any value at all. That's what we call it as feature, functional and non-functional requirements were all about, right? So this is what generally being a BA we have to do it. So it's not only about the solution you have designed. For example, solution called cloud-based point of sale system you have given, for example, as we have discussed, right? So developing a cloud-based point of sale system. It's not only developing a cloud-based POS system. What else is required for you? What else is required? Developing point of sale system is essentially important, accepted. But to develop that application, what are the features needed? If this feature to work with, what are the functional requirements we want to develop? So how should this functional requirement should act, should behave, should perform? These instructions should also be given to the technical team, because based on that infrastructure, whatever the infrastructure you require and all everything, software and hardware infrastructure you are using, you are using it. For example, you have a QWERTY keypad mobile wherein you want to connect to the class. Can you do that? You can't do it because there is no uh, option for you. If you want to connect to WhatsApp, or if you want to connect through GoToMeeting or Zoom and all everything with someone, you have to go for an iPhone or an Android phone, right? iOS or an Android phone, you need to choose. If it is an Android or an iOS, there is a configuration, hardware and software configuration is there where you have to follow. Understand? So the same way, whenever you are talking about a feature, every feature will have some functional and non-functional requirements, which has to be prepared by the business analyst team. How to develop that functionality? Developer will write a code for that, right? So that will be taken care of by them. For example, if you have taken this, for example, capturing different payment methods, right? So this was the thing. So for this is a functionality, right? Capturing different payment methods. So for that, there is a code which will be written by the developers later, right? What are the different payment methods and how to select that? There is a code which will be written in a form of coding and all everything by the developer, so that based on that, development will be taken accordingly. I think you guys have understood, right? So this is what generally the feature, functional, non-functional requirements are all about, right? So this is all about the roles and responsibilities. What is that I have discussed with you so far about the roles and responsibilities of BA, followed by feature, functional, non-functional requirements, all these, right? So this is all about BA introduction, skill sets, what are the roles and responsibilities, all these. Now, as I stated couple of times, that application development, right? I have used a lot of times development, project development, application development. I have used multiple words in this, in these many days, right? So one must be knowing about how to develop the application, right? So you must be knowing, right? You must be curious about that. So how to develop the application? If you want to develop the application, being a BA, because if you remember when I explained about the skill sets of craft skills, if you remember, I told you a process called SDLC, right? So this is what I have said, right? SDLC stages, models, all that I have told you. So technical skills means fundamentally, see, if you are gaining other technical skills, that is your personal interest. That's a different thing altogether. But end of the day, when you are working with IT people, you must be knowing about what exactly SDLC is all about, why SDLC is being used, what are the different stages and models of SDLC. Models, nothing but this, whatever waterfall, agile, all this comes under the models. So prior to that, we need to learn what is SDLC and how it looks like, right? So right. So SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. This is what we call it as SDLC, right? Software Development Lifecycle. So what it explains, software development lifecycle explains us about the stages of project or a product development. Means how to develop the product, how to develop the project, right? To explain that, generally this SDLC is being used. So this SDLC understanding should be there, should be required for everyone, not only for a BA, not only for a developer, not only for a project testing team, not only for a user interface designer, project manager. Everybody should know, should have an idea how are we going to do and how that stages and all everything will be there, right? So we'll be knowing about all these first. This is what we call it as SDLC, which stands for Software Development Lifecycle. Now, this is how and what generally SDLC looks like. Yeah, this is what generally a software development lifecycle is. So when you talk about software development lifecycle, so these are the different stages are there in SDLC. The first stage is analysis. In this stage of analysis, mainly business analyst team will be involved. I'm writing down here, right? The first stage is analysis. BA team will be involved more. Please mute yourself, boss. Someone, please mute, because if there is any distraction, automatically it distracts what is that I'm explaining. So please mute yourself. Don't unmute. Don't mute your. Don't unmute it. Thank you. Right. So first is analysis. Analysis means BA team will be involved more in analysis. Whatever you have done So far, whatever the responsibilities you have discussed so far in BA, all these were falls under the category of analysis, right? This is what we do. Means here in this analysis, what is that we are doing? In this analysis, we are doing problem analysis, situation you are trying to understand, right? So you are trying to understand the requirements. And that too, as I mentioned yesterday, even if based on someone's question, this is not a single day activity we do, right? So it's an activity we have to do for over a period of time, right? So because all these won't be happening in a day or two or a week or a 10 days, right? So to do the analysis or to understand the analysis of the requirements or the situations and all that, we need to have couple of meetings with the customer or from the stakeholders, right? So you need to interact with someone, you need to understand, and you have to try to understand what is that you require, all that stuff. At the same time, you need to have, and you need to understand whether they whatever the requirements or the problem they have identified was right or not, right? So what kind of solution, this is all comes under the analysis phase. So in the phase of analysis, this is the first phase, right? So once we get a project to the customer, to our site, what is that we do? The first thing is that analysis, and analysis that business analyst team will be involved more. Okay, this is what the first one. Once analysis is done, we come to a conclusion, right? So, okay, this is what XYZ is what we were about to develop, right? So now how to develop, right? So what is the manpower do you have? How much manpower you have? How much manpower we require? What is our budget? What technical infrastructure this application requires? Do we have that infrastructure with us or not? If not, how to acquire that infrastructure? Are the people who are working for application development were technically strong or not? If not, do we require to provide any kind of training to them or what? How many months or how many days or how much duration do we have to develop the project? Let's say, for example, if customer is expecting you to complete the project in 6 months time, for example, how to go further? What is the process do you require to follow to do that? So all these things comes under project planning, right? So project planning, either it is in a people, how many people you are selecting, either it may be the one reason. It's not only people selection, maybe how much what we called uh, what is the infrastructure you required. So everything comes under project planning. This is the first thing what is that you have to do. So once the project planning done, the next is about designing part of the project, how to design the project, all that comes under it. So before I am going to explain you, let me write down here. The second is planning and design. In this stage of SDLC, project management team will be involved here. Architect team will be involved. Architect team. At the same time, BA followed by the technical team will also be involved in this. Right? So these people will be involved in the phase of planning and design. So what is planning and design? First is project planning, as I said, right? How to develop the project. If there is this some X amount of work, how to divide this work, how to allocate tasks to the people. All these things comes under project planning, right? So which will be taken care of by the project management team or a project manager. Now, the second, architectural design. What is architectural design? I'll give you a simple example to you so that you will be understood the importance of an architecture. For example, you are a developer, you are a builder, right? So you are in real estate, a construction person, for example, right? Let me put you this way. You want to construct a residential building, residential apartment, right? So this is what you had an idea. Residential building, an apartment is what you want to construct. This is what your business is, right? For example, What is that first thing you need to have? First of all, you need to buy a land. You need to acquire a land, right? You have to buy a land first to construct it. Second, you have enough financial resources. You don't have any problem with financial resources. You have enough resources. But how much budget it will be taken for us to construct the building? That's a different story. That comes next. But you have enough financial resources. You don't have any problem to arrange the funds. Next, you have experienced working staff with you, right? Machining staff, supervisors, plumbers, electricians, everybody are there with you. You have all the people, whoever is required, everybody are there with you. All are experienced ones. So all these are needed, right? All these were there with you now. You bought a piece of land. Can you start constructing the building? Not, right? Not possible. Why? Because first of all, you must be knowing about how the building shed looks like, and you need to have a blueprint of the building. First of all, you need to get an approval from the government authority. Not only from the government authorities, but even if you want to construct the building, you need to understand how much budget it will be taken, right? So based on the size of the building, based on the size of the construction, based on the quality, budget will be allocated, right? So you're constructing 10 floors, 15 floors, 20 floors, or 5 floors. That's completely right. So depends on the design, depends on the facilities you're going to provide. Your project cost will be varied. So first of all, blueprint of the building is needed. Unless until if you don't have a blueprint, you can't do anything yet. So a blueprint of the building is what is required first. Now, this blueprint of the building again will be divided into different parts. One is external elevation. External elevation means how is it looking like from outside. That's what external elevation is. Externally, how it looks like. That's what external elevation stands for. Outside. Next, second, inside. Inside means how many flats you are going to construct. What is the size of each and every flat? How much space are you uh, showing for a corridor? Floor plan, right? How many floors you are constructing? You need to have a floor plan. So external elevation plan is required. You need to have a floor plan. Next, not only floor plan, flat plan, because for the particular flat number, so and so flat number you are constructing. What is the size of that flat? Right? So what is the size of the space you are providing to them? How much SFT is that? Right? How many rooms are you providing in it? How many electricity points are you going to provide? How many plumbing inlet and outlet water pipes are you giving, right? Because for regular utensils and as well as for kitchen and all everything, whatever the connections we give is different. Even for washrooms and all everything, we will be giving it is different. So there will be different pipelines for drinking water and dry and for common utensils. So there will be two different types of pipes you need to lay down. So this is all comes under the drawing, right? Plumbing drawing, electricity drawing, right? All these things, all this has to be there with you first. So once you have all these drawings and all, electrician will do their work, plumber will do their work, machining staff who construct the building, right? Machining people we call it as workers, all that. So those people will take care of that. Even there will be an supervisor or someone manager who looks after the construction quality timeline, right? So everything will be organized. So it's not only that whatever the plan you have, something comes to your mind. If you want to implement, what is that you require? You need to have all the design. Without having all these designs, simply just because of the money whatever you have, you can't do anything, right? So even not only to get an approval, but at the same time, first of all, if you want to do something, you need to have a concrete understanding on that. So this is where generally architecture stands for. The same way, whenever you are developing an application, It's not only about the requirements given by the business analyst. It's not only about the project planning, which was done by the project manager. Apart from all that, architect will create a solution architecture for the project, right? So he has to create a solution architecture. Normally, there will be an architect role will be there. So this is solution architect responsibility is to create the architecture. Those people who are technical people, okay? They are not technical functional ones. People whoever is having more than 15 years of experience in the field of IT into whole life cycle development of the project. So those people will become architects. That's what generally we follow, right? So this is what we call it as architecture stands for. So these architects will be there. So architect's responsibility is to develop the architecture for the project. So this is what generally the architecture which an architect has to perform. So all these things comes under planning and design. Okay. Next, after that, finalizing the requirements, documenting the requirements, designing the prototypes, all these will be done by the business analyst, followed by the help of technical team. So before you are going to write the code, in simple terms, I'm saying, before you are going to write the code for any of the project, what is that you require? You need to have a plan how to develop the project, how much time do we have, how much manpower we have, what is the technical capacity of the team, if there is any shortage, how to train them, what to train them, what is the technical infrastructure you require to develop the project, do we have that sufficient infrastructure with us or not, how to start the project, how to continue, and how to end. If you don't have all these things, this may delay sometimes, right? So because as it is a human intervention, sometimes it happens because there is no guarantee 100%, right? So even in advertisements also you see in bath soaps everywhere you can see 99.9%, right? There is no 100%, right? So only uh, we don't give 100% guaranteed, but usually when you are developing an application, before that you need to have a plan 100%, right? Why, what, for what reason, why are we developing this solution, for whom are we developing this, right? So what will be the use of developing this, how much manpower do you require, how much technical infrastructure you want, right? So do we have that sufficient infrastructure with us or not? So all these things comes under planning and design. This is the second level. The third one we call it as implementation. Normally implementation means coding, writing user interfaces, all that. So this implementation normally developers, user interface designers, right? So means creating web pages, all that, right? So all these people will be involved in the phase of implementation, right? Means whatever the features and whatever the functionalities we have designed so far, because some time back I have told you, right? So functionalities, all that, whatever the features, whatever the functionalities, so those has to be implemented. Otherwise, how can you use, for example, you are using an ATM system, right? So you are using an ATM system. You went to an ATM system, you have inserted the card, it is asking you the PIN number, you have given the PIN number, it is asking you what kind of service you want to use, you have chosen a service called cash withdrawal, and it is asking you to select the amount, what is that you want, you have selected some X amount of money. If that amount of money is there in your balance, sufficient balance is there, you get the money, otherwise you'll get a insufficient funds, right? That's what it is. So this is the one, being a user, you are using an ATM system. How you have done that? There is a code for withdrawing money which was written by a developer in back of it. Of course that code won't be seen by you, because that code is an instruction which is given by a human to the system, because myself is writing a code for withdrawing of money. In what way am I giving instructions to the system, to the software, to the IT, to the application, to the device in a form of code, right? So there are different languages we have. Of course, Java, C, C++, we have PHPs, right? So we have different languages we have. Using different code and all, developer will write the code for the functionality. Am I right? Right. So without the functionality, whatever you are going to develop doesn't have any value at all. So this is what we call it as implementation stands for. This is what we call it as implementation stands for. So implementation means like developers, user interface designers, all these people comes into picture. Now, after implementation, you have to do testing. What is testing stands for? In this testing people will be there. Testing professionals will be there. Right? So this is what generally we call it as testing. What is testing stands for? For example, I have written the code. Whether do I have written the code in a proper way? Is it is a quality one? Is it is according to the requirements of the one which is that we are expecting? How come we know? There must be a testing team, there must be a quality analysis or a testing, whatever it is, right? So all this comes under a single category, right? So there must be a testing team who has to test the functionality. For example, login page we are creating. What are all should be there in the login page? That instructions will be given prior to the development team. But we must ensure whether are these the one we have identified and doing or not is need to be understood by the people first. That is what is required. That is what is needed. This is what we call it as instructions. Instructions has to be given prior. Instruction should be given first for us. This is what generally we call it as testing stands for. So there is a testing team who will be taking care of all that. So testing the functionalities, priorities. Again, those testing again will be of two different types. One is manual and second is automation testing. Manual testing means testing people prepare documents like test cases, test plans, all these will be prepared by them. Automation testing means they have to use some tools like Selenium, Silk, Windrunner, LoadRunner, all that. And they test the code, right? What was the code you have written? For example, 1 plus 2 equal to 3, right? So this is the calculation. This is the code. Whether it is 1 plus 2 equal to 3 is coming or not. It means addition. Is it that addition of that particular functionality was written by the developer properly or not? How come we know? In a form of code, we will be knowing about this. This is what we call it as testing stands for. So every functionality, whatever the functionality we have developed so far, that functionality will be having some testing. So implementation, so analysis is there, the analysis is there. So you need to analyze it. Once the analysis is done, you are going for planning and design. Once the planning and design is done, you're going for implementation. Once the implementation is completed, you're going for testing. Right? So these are the things. Once testing is done, what is that you have to do? You have to deploy the application. For example, you have completed a project, right? So I am the customer. You are asking me, Raj, we have done the project. Do you want me to deliver? What is that I'll ask you? Show me whether the project is working fine or not, right? How is it performing? So that sort of understanding required for me, right? So this is what we call it as deployment. So for example, an application is deployed in my system, but if it is not deployed in your infrastructure or in your environment, do they have any value for that? We don't have any value, right? So who has to do that? There will be a deployment team is separate, right? Normally, of course, this deployment team consists of even technical people will also be there. Deployment, right? So there will be a deployment team as separate, consists of technical people, senior technical people will be there. So they will be doing the deployment part. Whether it is right, the properly project was completed or not, is it properly working or not, everything will be done under the deployment. So once it is deployed, you have to, so in this process and all, user acceptance testing, different testing procedures and all everything, people will be followed. Followed by this, what is that we have to do? You have to do the delivery of the project. Right. So now normally here, there will be some delivery heads, delivery team, delivery managers, etc. Right. So there will be a separate delivery team. So that delivery team will deliver the project. So followed by delivery, next is maintenance. Means, for example, customer is using an application online. When he using his application, he has got some practical difficulty to solve, right? So because user is a user, right? So he is trying to use the application, not to do anything else apart. So someone has to repair it. Someone has to take care of the support part. This is all comes under the maintenance of the project. So these are the stages of application development. So analysis phase followed by planning and design, next implementation followed by testing, deployment, delivery followed by maintenance. So if you have taken any of the project, so these are the phases of application development which normally we must understood. Because in majorly analysis and planning are are the phases, two major phases being a role of a BA, our role is so prominent. But whereas when it comes to implementation, testing, deployment, and delivery, we act as a intermediary, right? So our role is not so, I don't say important, it is important, but our role is not so right? Primary, because ours is not a frontline this thing, because frontline people were different, right? So you will be in the back end. But whereas for analysis, planning, design, and all everything, you will be the one who has to look after all these things. So this is all about the SDLC process is all about. So the stages of SDLC is what we have discussed so far. Followed by this, then what are models? What are different SDLC models that I'm going to discuss in tomorrow's session, right? I think here are some questions. Let us answer these, right? So session done, okay. SDLC process completed. Now it is Q&A. Okay, here. Ranjit is asking features of BA. See, there is no features of BA. Features will be there for the project, not for a BA, right? That's the difference. Features will be there for a project, not for a BA. Right, I think, please correct the question, Ranjit. Next. To summarize, functional requirements define how to system work and non-functional requirements define how system should work. Is that right? Yeah. Yes. Blama, right? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Whatever you have said is right. Yes. Because functional requirements define how the system should work. Non-functional requirement is a character. How should it works? How should it performs? So that's what it is. Yes. Your said is right. See, that's what I have said, Anupama. QA and testing are the same. There is a slight difference. In the beginning, if you remember, I told you, both are usually comes under the single category. But quality means quality represents you the standard. Testing represents you the procedure. There is a slight variation. Okay, don't confuse between, because fundamentally to make it very simple for you, QA and testing are same. Okay, same. Understand that way. But there is a thin line of difference. Why? Because see, 100% you don't require to maintain quality standards for testing. 100% you may not be required, right? For example, that's what I have given an example even earlier. You got a budget phone and you have got an iPhone even. You are buying a budget phone with a budget cost, with a very limited cost, and you are buying an iPhone for almost in Indian rupees, I can say a lakh of rupee or something, like you are buying it, right? So why are you paying for this? Is it only for the brand, Of course, it's for a brand for one reason. And what was the other reason? Because of the resolution, because of the experience, what you feel. Because when you touch the screen of your iPhone, that feel is different, right? So that feel you don't get it in the budget phone. And the next about the battery life and the components, whatever they are using. So what are all is involved in it? There are some quality standards, there are some quality components which has taken care of by them, and they have designed it. So you are paying money for that, not only to the brand, you are paying money for that. So this is what we call it as quality transfer, right? So QA stands for quality analyst. Normally quality and testing. Normally don't write QA, quality and testing. That's it. Is it quality and testing are same or not, right? So that must be the question. Quality analyst, who is analyzing the quality, is called as QA, right? So remove the A part. Q means quality and testing. Quality represents you the standard, testing represents you the procedure. Procedure never everybody follow, but what standards are we using? This will be varying from one to another. So that's the reason why quality and testing are one will be comes under the single category. That's the only difference. I think you understood the point, right? So there is a thin line of difference. You have to understand that. Quality standards are we maintaining? It's very simple. It's very simple to understand. So you are good at studies, but the point is, when it comes to the examination, I am giving you 45 minutes time. 45 minutes, how you are answering the questions and how you are answering the question paper is important. That requires quality, right? How you read, how you understood within short time, and how you have answered the questions. Some questions answers may be very long, but are you making it short? Because the person who is invigilating it should understand and should accept whatever you have written was right or not. So what is required? The quality of writing is needed. Quality of writing not only the vocabulary, how you have presented, right? How you have presented. You don't you can write it in 100 lines that answer. At the same time, you can confine that to 20-25 lines. Even there is the quality, right? You can write 100 lines. You can confine that to 25. Possible, but there is a quality. The kind of vocabulary, what is that you have used, so that you can reduce and so that you can complete your examination in 45 days, 45 minutes, right? So when it will be elevated, how well academically you are good, excellent, when you are performing in 45. So when you are talking about examination, there are some restrictions, there are some instructions was given. Within that instructions, you have to follow and you have to complete. That is what we call it as quality. Understand? Clear and common? I think you understood this. Difference between manual and automation. Sometime back I have told you. Manual automation means they don't work, they don't use any tools. They use only Word document and write down the documentations, right? So for example, login page, how the page should looks like. Okay, user ID password should be there. Okay, you submit button. Okay, cancel button. Okay, there must be some home page link. Okay, so this is what generally in manual testing they'll write down the test cases. Automation testing means they use different tools like Selenium, Silk, Windrunner, all these things they will be using, and they do the testing part. That's what the difference you see from manual to automation testing. Clear? So testing people will do that. No. See, it is Dilil Puyal. Yeah. See, manual testing doesn't require any coding. Yes, accepted, right? So there is nothing to do with coding. Manual testing means we prepare documents. That is one thing. Testing team, I mean to say. But is in automation testing, there is no programming language. See, automation testing means you are using testing tools, right? Something like Selenium, how to use Selenium, how to use Silk, Windrunner, LoadRunner. That is what is required. That is nothing to do with programming language. Programming language we use for coding, not for testing. Remember the point. Okay, programming language is used for coding, not for testing. 1 + 2 = 3. To develop that logic, programming language is needed. Whether 1 plus 2 equal to 3 is coming or not, whether it is the right or not, testing we have to do. I think you understood the, right? This is what it is. Yeah, it is the question of Pradeep Shrestha, right? Uh, Such as load runner, all that. Yeah. See, uh, selenium, silk, wind runner, load runner, all these things comes under uh, automation testing. Example is this. Example of automation testing is silk, lead, load runner, wind runner, silk, load selenium. There are a lot of tools are there. Those are few. I think you understood, Pradeep, regarding this. See, there is no easier, Amma, Harita. It is sorry, it is Sarita, right? Yeah, Sarita. See, there is no easier, right? So there is a procedure. Automatic manual testing procedure is there. Automation procedure is there. Both is required for testing. Both having its own importance. Both has its own existence. You cannot remove any one thing because there is no point called easier. These are mandatory things. Manual testing is required, automation testing is required. Manual testing, whether I want to see what is there, should be there on the page. Using Word document, are we doing it? Automation testing, I'm using tools. If I want to make it more clear and simpler to your answer, rather than automation testing, manual testing is easier. Means if you are asking me, this is the answer I can give. Manual testing, why? Because in manual testing, you can use Word document and you can write down what is it requires, all that. But automation testing, how to use the tool and all everything, you need to learn. If you are a tester, I'm saying, okay, subject to correction. It's nothing to do with the role of a BA, but subject to correction, I'm saying this. Okay. So I can say if you when you're talking about automation tool, you need to learn the tool. If you may feel a little bit difficult, right? So that's it. I hope answers your question. Yeah. Scrum ceremonies I'll tell because when I start about SDLC models, when I'm explaining about Agile, I'll tell you about Scrum ceremonies like sprint planning, daily Scrum, review, retrospections. That I'll explain in coming time. Yeah, you'll get it. I'll show you. I'll show you how to design a sample prototype using, because there is a tool called Balsamiq. I will show you. The practical part is there. I will show you that practical part in coming days. How to develop. It means, for example, login page creation, right? So you can create using some Balsamiq and all that. So all that. So that I will show you. This is for Ashma's question. Okay. Non-functional requirements, I told you, Praveen. I've told you, right? Non-functional requirements means performance, scalability, all that. How should it perform? How should it behave? That's what we call it as non-functional requirement. Yeah. So next, this is the question from Anshika. What's the role of a BA in implementation, testing, deployment, maintenance phase? As I mentioned, analysis and planning design, our role is more important. But in terms of implementation, people will write the code. So if there is any clarification required for them functionally, or customer is asking anything to be added, so there our role is important in implementation. In reference to the testing and all, the same thing you are doing with testing team also, because testing team may also have some functional any questions and all everything that you are going to support them. That way you are involving it. Deployment and maintenance team will be taken care of by them. You are nothing to do with that. You don't do that even, right? So that's what the thing is. See, non-functional, this is for the question of Devilal Sharma. So non-functional requirements tells you about the character of a particular functionality. How should it behave? That's what non-functional requirement stands for. Simple. UI stands for Dina. It is user interface design. Login page creation, for example, front page design. That's what user interface design, right? It's how you are connecting user interfaces and all that. For automation testing, coding is required except learning tools learning. No, see, there is no coding. That's what I was saying couple of times, Shafali. See, there is no coding for testing. If you're writing a program, then you require a code that will be done by the developer. Tester don't write the code. Tester will test the code. So for that, whatever the tools required in an industry, those tools learning is required. Selenium, Silkworm Runner, and all that. So those tools will will make you to learn how to test the code. You are not writing the code, right? Code will be written by someone. Testing will be done by someone.
But I think there will be a minimum like some understanding of coding is required or not. Like the tool is okay. Like if you are using any kind of tools to test the any test cases, but if we don't know any coding, then we can go for automation testing or not.
See, there are some instructions will be written in a form of manual testing, Kadama, right? Understood, right? So there are some instructions we are writing in a form of manual testing prior. So based on the manual testing instructions and all that you are using testing tools so that you don't require to know coding. Whether for example, for example, login page was created. What all should be there in the login page was prepared, right? Was prepared. Is it right or not? How come you know based upon the instructions which will be given on the manual testing? So for that, you don't require to have an expertise of coding because you are not doing coding part. Because once you are running the code in the testing tool, automatically it will show you the results, right? Automatically it will show you the results. If you know the coding, then it's an advantage to you. See, there is two different things. One is mandatory, second is mandatory, second is comfort, right? This is not mandatory. If you know coding, it's more advantageous to you, right? So that you can understand much better. But it doesn't mean that we should say them that a testing person should know the coding. It is not that, right? So you don't require it. But if you know, happy, you'll be understood much better. But it is not guaranteed that it is required for you. That's what my answer is. Understood? Clear?
Yeah. Thank you.
It's by Prati. Is BA involved in the analysis step is then once done needs to be done continuously throughout. See, analysis is a continuous process because, for example, there will be few requirements comes in between. What is that you are doing? Again, you are doing analysis and you are adding some requirements into the existing project. Again, with the help of, with the support and acceptance of the technical team. So it's a continuous process. Sometimes we follow, right? Analysis we are doing first. We have started the project. Again, some other requirements came in between. What is that you are doing? Again, you are trying to understand and integrate with the existing one. But that possibility that we have to check with the testing, the development team and all, finally we have to do it. That's what it is. That QA class and all that you can speak to them, right? So QA, because I am for BA, you can speak to them regarding this QA part if there is anything of that sort. I think these are all the questions I understood. I think, right? So I think I have answered all your questions, right? So this is all for today. And tomorrow we are going to discuss about the models of software development lifecycle. Okay, so thank you. Okay, fine. So we'll meet tomorrow and we discuss about SDLC model, software development lifecycle models is what we were discussing in tomorrow's session. Thank you then. Bye. Yeah, good day.